Welcome, welcome, folks. We see people are joining this webinar. My name is Chris Barnes. I am the Vice President of Growth and Business Development with the Council on Professional Recognition. And I'm going to give you guys a few more moments to join us. Seems like the ticker is moving and moving as we speak, Sandy and Dr. Moore. But I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of talk about some really interesting and innovative things that are happening in and around the council. So I'll probably give it another 30 seconds or so and we will get started. But again, welcome to the entire ECE field. We know we have a bunch of participants who have RSVP'd, and so we're excited to have this conversation. We have some wonderful speakers lined up, and additionally, we have some great information to share. So we look forward to having this rich and robust dialogue today. Still coming in. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I know there's some folks joining us in the chat box while we are waiting for other folks to join. If you want to just have some fun with us today, just actually put into the chat box where you're calling from. We'd love to know where you guys are joining us. We'd like to see what part of the country is being represented. So if you guys don't mind, feel free to type into the chat box. Don't feel any pressure, but feel free to type into the chat box where you are calling from or where you're calling in from, where you're logging in from. We'd love to see and hear from you guys. Oh, I got Nebraska, Minnesota, New Orleans folks, welcome. North Carolina. Someone says the sunny state of Florida. Someone from Baltimore. Nashville. Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Welcome, Minnesota. Get some more Georgia folks, okay. Upstate New York, Lima, Ohio. Alabama. Alaska, welcome, welcome Alaska. I'd love to hear what part of Alaska you're calling it from. Blair, Nebraska. And some more North Carolina folks and Pennsylvania as well. So it seems like we have a really, really good representation from across the country, from sea to shining sea, as they say, Arkansas, Michigan, Connecticut. Yep, so thank you guys for participating with that. Again, my name is Chris Barnes. I'm the Vice President for Growth and Business Development with the Council for Professional Recognition. I'm really excited today because we have some great information and some really great presenters that are going to kind of share this information. We also have a really, really good word from our benevolent leader at the council, Dr. Calvin Moore. So I'm really excited about today's conversation around the high school CDA and this career tech pathway. We're launching this TNTA initiative that we're really invested in and putting a lot of our resources in because we understand some of the current challenges in the field. We want to support the industry as much as we can. So I'm very pleased to announce this opportunity. We're going to have some great learning and some dialogue around supporting the ECE field. Today's main purpose really is to kind of highlight what I just mentioned and to really talk about how we can integrate this initiative and resources into some of the state frameworks around education, especially around this career pathway. I do want to highlight a few housekeeping notes though. So they're gonna, if you guys are pretty familiar with Zoom, I know we've, over the last 2 years, we've all become painfully aware of the use of technology, sometimes for our benefit, sometimes to our detriment, but we love technology, we've embraced it, right? And so you guys are pretty familiar, I'm sure, with the Zoom platform. There is a Q&A pod that we're going to use for those questions and answers. So if you have some really burning questions, some things that you really want answered, and of course, you know, we because of the volume, the sheer volume of folks that are going to join us, everyone would get the opportunity to speak. So we do invite you to use the Q&A box just to type in your questions if you have any burning questions. We also allow you, again, just if you've used the chat box, so we want you to use those chat box for any questions that you may have. And particularly if you have any tech issues, any issues, maybe like you're not getting the sound properly or something's going on with your, you know, with the connection, feel free to type. There is Breasia Productions is giving us our support today. And there is a Breasia Productions tech person that is assigned to handle those tech questions. You can message that person directly if you have any issues and they can resolve that for you on the spot. So we really appreciate you guys doing that because we won't have the, you won't have the opportunity to kind of raise your hand or do anything else audibly. So just feel free to type that to the chat box. I do kind of, based on the recent events that have kind of happened in Texas, I would be remiss not to mention what is happening in Texas, and we need to kind of acknowledge that. I know that on the phone now, we have a lot of caregivers and educators who are on the line. So hats off to you guys for your support and your sacrifice. We're not necessarily going to do a moment of silence or anything, but I wanted to acknowledge the victims in Texas and make sure that we keep these folks in the forefront of our mind and understand what we do every day is a gift of the heart. And so the compassion of those educators and what you guys do every day is absolutely recognized by the council. And we want to make sure that you guys understand that. I am going to turn it over to our leader, though, Dr. Calvin Moore, who is himself a CDA holder, but I want to upstage him. I want to make sure that he gets his opportunity to give his welcome and any comments that he wants to share. But again, guys, thank you and welcome to this event.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Calvin Moore, CEO of the Council for Professional Recognition. And I too am excited and join Chris in welcoming you. I certainly was glad to hear that so many of you registered to be part of this conversation and dialogue today, where you can learn about the training and technical assistance opportunity that we have wrapped around the high school CDA. I believe it was in 2011 when we first began to open up the gate for folks in high school to earn their CDA. It was a way for them to jumpstart their careers. And then in 2021, we released a fabulous publication that is a guide and a manual to help programs, administrators, and faculty to develop robust high school CTE programs around the country. I'm really excited about that publication, and we offer it free to those who are interested. And we have today a person who was instrumental in creating that publication, who will be joining us later to talk about all the services that she will be providing to those folks who are interested in learning more about how to create these programs for high schoolers around the country. I personally believe that this is the final frontier for the high school, for the CDA, allowing high schoolers to earn their credential before they graduate. Because the CDA is a game changer. It is the best first step for early childhood professionals entering our field. And by allowing high school students to earn their CDA in high school, we are building an important pipeline of individuals who can start on day one with the CDA working in classrooms after they graduate. I'm proud to hail from Alabama, where we have thriving CTE programs across the state that are awarding their CDAs in high school so that when a person graduates, they can work in childcare settings, including Alabama's premier pre-K program. And I know that you'll learn more about other CTE programs around the country that are doing some very similar work. And I'm thrilled to welcome you and learn with you today. Without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Sandra Kowalczyk, who is a manager in the growth and business development area here at the council.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore, and welcome everybody. I'm really happy to be here today. And next slide. Yeah, I want to welcome everyone. And this webinar is going to explore our new coaching, training, and technical assistance program to help support state administrators, school district leaders, faculty, and staff in implementing the High School Child Development Associate, or CDA, Career and Tech program. And this program supports the high school CTE community in building the ECE workforce with implementation of high quality program content and design through the provision of training and technical assistance services. And our session goals today are to explore the benefits of the high school CDA programs, to examine the requirements, and most of all, to discover new opportunities to support the provision of the CDA career pathway in high school CTE programs. And Dr. Moore discussed this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but as he mentioned, we started this in 2011. And then just over the years, we've had so much interest in the high school CDA program that we put together this handbook. And as he mentioned, Dr. Biza, who will be speaking later in the presentation today, was instrumental along with council staff in putting that together. And we'll have links for that later on in the presentation as well. And we're just really excited today to launch, the purpose of this webinar really is to launch our technical assistance coaching, training, and tech program. Before we get into those details though, for those of you who aren't too familiar with the CDA, I just wanted to provide a little bit of a snapshot, a little background on who we are and so forth. The CDA credential is the most widely recognized credential in early childhood education. It's a key stepping stone on the path to career advancement in early childhood ed. And to be awarded the credential, candidates have to complete an assessment process and demonstrate that they're able to put their knowledge of the CDA competency standards into practice in their daily work with children and families. And most important too, being awarded the CDA means the candidate's qualified to be a lead teacher in the classroom. The CDA is the best first step. It's nationally recognized. It's transferable within states if you move to a different state and so forth. And it's competency-based. It's a multi-language credential designed to assess an early childhood educator's competency in the language of their daily work with children. And nearly 1 million CDA credentials have been issued to date to early childhood educators in the US and internationally. And the CDA, it articulates to AA and BA degree programs in many community and four-year colleges. Now, the CDA has a lot of benefits for high school students. They can graduate job ready with a nationally recognized credential. They can jumpstart their higher ed with core knowledge of child development, have the knowledge, skills, and confidence to work with young children, and they gain valuable skills and competencies that early childhood educators want, and can also earn college credit while still in high school. And faculty can also help through that process. The faculty can empower students with explicit, measurable, and transferable learning competencies. They can also serve as a PD specialist. And if you're interested in learning more about that, we have the link right there at cdacouncil.org/CDA-PD-specialists. And it's also on our website. But the faculty can also prepare students for success in college and career opportunities. And most important, feel good about participating in furthering career pathways in their state and in the ECE field. And with states, the CDA integrates with most pre-designed courses and alignment. And there's an opportunity for customized CDA ECE courses to support further rollout in states. Some states also offer dedicated funding. And most important, it's career pathways. It can include education offered concurrently or in the same cycle as workforce preparation and training. It enables CTE program to offer students secondary school diplomas and at least one recognized industry-based credential. And it helps the individual enter or advance within a specific occupation or occupational cluster. And we work with a lot of different states and CTE programs. And I just wanted to highlight for you a few of the states we're working with. We're working with Michigan, the Department of Ed, the Office of Great Start. We've been working with Nebraska's Department of Education, and Florida has a lot of CTE programs. We've worked with their Division of Career, Tech, and Adult Education. We've also worked with Texas, the Texas Education Agency. We work with Maryland, and I know the states of Delaware and Georgia, we're just starting to work with them, doing webinars and various things with CTE. So if you are a state and on this call, feel free to, my email will be at the end of the presentation. Feel free to email me directly and we can talk more about some of these opportunities. And lastly, before I turn this over to Dr. Biza, I just wanted to highlight again our handbook, which includes planning and design tools, resources, and individualized instruction to create a sustainable high school CTE program. It provides a systems approach with specific resources, represents a framework to guide comprehensive and informed planning, and it's digitally formatted, but most of all, it's also free. So if you can go to next slide. Here, and it's also going to be in the chat, is our link to our high school pathways page. In that page, you can download our handbook, which I'd highly recommend. It has a lot of the how-tos of which I just mentioned. And in that page also has a Q&A and just other support materials from the council. And then I'm also excited to tell you all that we're currently developing a Spanish version of the high school handbook. And it'll be most likely finished within the summer or early fall. But for updates on it, on the status, please feel free to subscribe to our council link newsletter, which will be put up in the chat in a minute. And there'll be updates throughout the summer there for that. All right, next slide. And lastly, I'm very, very happy to introduce Dr. Biza, who is the founder and managing partner of Wings Curriculum. And she's a best-selling author. She's a renowned public speaker, and she's been conducting CDA training since 2003. She's worked as a CTE instructor in North Georgia, where she served as the district's ECE career pathway lead. And she also serves as president of the Black Child Development Institute in Atlanta, while continuing to consult with school systems around the country to provide CTE leaders and ECE instructors on how to implement the CDA in high school and CDA programs and CTE programs. So with that, I'm happy to throw this over to Dr. Biza.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Hello, everyone out there in webinar sphere. I am Bisa Lewis, and I'm so happy to be here telling you guys about this exciting new program that the council is offering to you all to support high schoolers. You all, we need the high schoolers to save our workforce because we need people in our classroom with our children, but we need trained people with our children, right? So let's talk about this program, and we'll also talk about the key steps to earning a CDA in high school. So the purpose of this new TNTA program that the council is offering is to support school systems and even business partners who want to partner with high school CTE in implementing a CDA program in their career and technical education program. And so many of you guys may have heard of CTE, career and technical education. Based on where you live, it may be CTAE, and A may stand for agriculture or arts, based on where you are. And so the high schools offer early childhood oftentimes, and we want to make sure more high schools are offering early childhood because children are everywhere. I want you guys to say that with me. Children are where? Everywhere. And so wherever there are children, we need trained professionals to work with them. And so the council is implementing this TNTA program to support the information, the books, the publication, the website, everything that's already out there so that everyone can understand the key steps and the components of implementing a high school CTE program. So we're excited to be able to offer this to you all. You have the opportunity to talk with me via the phone, and I'll share more about that a little later. So the CDA is a candidate-driven credential. The great thing about it being in high school is that they have support from their CTE, their early childhood education instructor, and also their community partners. So it starts with preparation. And so with preparation, which I'll share with you today, the key steps of preparation, it is the education component. The training that they get in the classroom is also the work with young children. So again, I'll share a little bit more about the preparation. So that's the start of the candidate-driven process. And then after they've completed all the components in the education, their portfolio included, which I'll share a little bit about that today as well, their work experience with children, they get to apply to the council for their credential. And after they apply, The council, if everything is in order, in place, they will send them an approval or not, and can go back and fix whatever they need to fix. But once their application is approved, two things happen. One, they have an in-person visit, an on-site visit, where a PD specialist is observing them working with young children. And they also get to take an exam. So they take a CDA exam on the computer at a Pearson VUE testing center. And again, I'll share more about that as well. And excuse me if you hear the lawnmower, because we all know the grass is cut when you're on a presentation. Next slide, please. So what are the high school CDA student requirements? So the high school CDA, you guys, again, is in a CTE program. It's not a community-based training like many of you all may be implementing training out there for your adults or the Head Start. This happens in high school, and it is a part of a program. So the career and technical education program that is a part of their CTE or CTAE program. So that's a big difference between the community training and high school CTE. It is a part of the program. And in the program, it may be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, based on their state and how their Department of Ed has it approved. So why don't you guys put in the chat, how long is your high school EC program? And if you are from a school system, okay, I see 3 years, 2 years, 3, okay, yeah, 3.5 years. Ooh. So mostly 2 and 3 years is what I see. All right, no one said 1 year, awesome. So I have some great news for you in a second when I get to it, and to a couple of slides from here. So it sounds like many of you all are getting in that education requirement for the CDA in high school. So they have to be a junior or a senior to actually apply for the CDA. Okay, they have to be a junior or a senior. Not saying they can't get their education before that, but they have to be a junior or senior by the time they apply. So they also have to have the 120 clock hours of formal education in ECE. And again, I'm going to break that down for you in a second. And I'm happy to hear that many of you all have a 2 or 3 year program. They also have to work with young children. 480 hours of work experience with young children within the last 3 years. And again, that's perfect because many of your programs are 2 and 3 years. They have to complete a CDA professional portfolio as well. And again, I'll talk a little bit about that today. And again, I have some great news to share with you at the end, the support that the council is providing the community and making sure the students and the instructors get what they need. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk about the 120 hours of formal education. I get so many questions about this component, and I want to make sure that I clarify some of those questions for you today. I also saw some questions in the Q&A in the chat, so I try to answer some as I go along. So the competency standards, there are 6 competency standards for the CDA. And whether you guys are offering CDA again in the community or whether you're offering it in high school CTE, the components are the same. So I want to make sure that's clear. The components are the same. The structure of the CDA is the structure of the CDA. So you don't have to get confused there. The major difference is that they get this experience in college and they are in a CTE program. I want to pin that again. So the same 6 competency standards that many of you all are familiar with if you are a trainer or instructor. And so with these competency standards, we go over health and safety for goal 1, physical and intellectual competence for goal 2, emotional development and positive guidance for goal 3. I hope some of this sounds familiar because if you are a trainer or if you are a college instructor or a high school instructor, all of this should sound familiar. You're teaching this anyway. And I have great news for you as well. Again, many of your states already have the CDA approved as a pathway at your state level because it aligns with many of their current standards for ECE. Goal 4 is positive and productive relationships with families. 5 is professional, purposeful program responsive to participant needs. We just say program management usually. And then 6 is professionalism. So there are 6 competency standards, the goals. And on the right there, you'll see the functional areas. There are 13 CDA functional areas. And for each goal, there may be a different number of functional areas. So in goal 1, for health, safety, and learning environment, that's actually what you cover in those functional areas. You cover safety, you cover health, and learning environment. And I'll share a little bit more when we get to the next slide. In Goal 2, with physical and intellectual competence, there are 4 functional areas that you cover in your 120 hours of education. You cover physical development, cognitive or intellectual development, you cover communication, language and literacy, and you also cover creativity. So all of that is in Goal 2. And I know if you're an instructor on here, you're thinking about, how can I align this? Or I already teach this in my classroom. Goal 3, for positive guidance and emotional development, we cover self, which is self-awareness, self-esteem, social, and guidance. So those are the 3 functional areas that are covered in Goal 3. Goal 4 is families. And I always tell people, once you get past Goal 3, you get to rock and roll, because there's only 1 functional area for each of the final 3 goals. So families, which is family engagement, how are you working with families in your programs, how are you developing and maintaining relationships with families. Program management, that's when we get into anecdotal records and record keeping, confidentiality, and then professionalism. When we talk about your professional ECE organizations, what are you a member of? How are you maintaining your own training and professional development? So that's just a snapshot of what's covered in the CDA 120 hours of education. So the next slide, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. All right, so there are, as I mentioned in the previous slide, there are 6 competency standards, and then there are 13 functional areas, and the different functional areas fall into those standards. There are 8 CDA subject areas that must be covered in your program. And again, this is the same no matter what CDA you're offering. In the community, in high school, these same subject areas are there. And if you look on the left side, these 8, they feed into the ones that I just discussed. So some examples of what we do, and I want to stick to the script here with high school. So safety, first aid, you guys, I really loved when I was a high school CT instructor for 3 years in Gwinnett County. I saw so many Georgians on here. I was able to do so much with my high schoolers at Berkmar High School. We had over 3,000 students, you guys. So I had 6 classes of CDA, 6 classes of students, and we had EC 1, 2, and 3. So also 3 years in Georgia. The EC pathway to complete it is 3 years. So the biggest part was tweaking the curriculum. So I want you to hear me really well on this. Tweaking the curriculum, because when I started teaching, many of you guys know this, if you teach or train anywhere, someone always passes down the syllabi, right? What they did, their activity, someone sends you the email or the Dropbox or the Google folder. And what I noticed is that much of the content was great family consumer sciences content that has been taught for a long time, but they just needed some minor tweaks to bring them up to the industry standards, what we do in the industry. For instance, with say healthy, changing a diaper at home is much different in a child development center. The steps, there are more steps because you're changing more than one baby. And then there are health and safety standards that you must follow based on the state. So they had to learn how to change a baby in a child development center versus changing a baby at home. So that was just one major tweak there. Also, they had to have first aid and CPR training. So I partnered with the high school and the health and PE department, and we made sure that everyone had first aid CPR training. So they actually had their first aid CPR cards, guys, and that happened in ECE 2 and 3. We talked about nutrition. They got to plan menus, and we partnered with the Child Development Center across the street, and I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. They were able to support the Child Development Center with their menus, with their lesson plans, because we were doing that work in our program at the high school. And if you all have any teens in your lives, you know that they're still really children at heart, right? Their activities were so engaging, so much fun, that the program across the street actually started implementing some of the students' information programming in their lesson plans. When we get to physical and intellectual development, you guys know about the muscle development. intellectual development, language and literacy, math. So they learn how to teach the cognitive and the physical part of the curriculum and plan activities accordingly. I saw some dual language learners and people with different, who have different backgrounds. I love the diversity that's here today. Yes, this is where we dive into dual language learning. So they get a chance to learn about English language learners, dual language learners. It is such a great curriculum, but we want to make sure that the instructors understand these components and how to implement those. And again, just a snapshot here. I don't want to continue. I don't want to read to you, but we do get into the behavior component. As a trainer, I tell you the number one course that's recommended that's requested is behavior. People want training on behavior. Here's the thing. If you implement the curriculum appropriately, you have fewer behavior problems, right? So it's really important that we train our educators and our prospective educators on how to implement the holistic curriculum. All right, so next slide. I know you're thinking about the hours, and I get this question a lot when I'm presenting workshops at different conferences about the CDA. So as many of you said in the chat, you offer a 2 or 3 year early childhood program in your high school. Yay, yay, yay. Now, the slide you see here, this is mostly hours from how colleges implement it, but you will see, yeah, thank you. In bold there, you will see in the middle, I want to focus on the semester credits. Most college credits are 3 semester hours. You get 3 semester hours for your early childhood classes. And that is generally the norm. So if each class is really 45 clock hours, because the CDA has 120 clock hours, they need to take 3, if they take 3 CDA, 3 early childhood courses, then at again, college, if you're doing dual enrollment, they meet those hours. But we're gonna break that down a little bit more. Okay, so 3 college courses. And then if you look on the left there, CEUs, it takes 10 hours to make 1 CEU. And so they would need 120, 120 hours is 12 CEUs. And many of you guys may not be offering the CEUs. So again, it depends on how you're offering your hours. Many of you guys, again, if you're doing dual enrollment, you're partnering with your local college, then the credit hours, that's how you measure those. They'll take 3 classes to equal their 120 hours. And if you're on quarter hours, you see that as well. And so 4 quarter credits, that's 40 hours. So they would need a total of 12 quarter credits to get the 40 clock hours. I'm to 120 clock hours. Here's the thing. What I've noticed when I'm working with most school systems, that 1 full year of ECE, they have that 120 clock hours. And it, of course, depends on how your schedule is. Do they come to you every day? My high schoolers came to me, we won block scheduling. Everybody came, all 8 classes, everyone, all 6 classes came for 50 minutes on Monday. Everyone went to every class for 50 minutes on Monday. And after that, they either came for an hour and a half on Tuesday and Thursday, or an hour and a half on Wednesday and Friday. And so every week I had them for 4 hours. So if you multiply that times your entire school year, you usually have your 120 hours. So just a way to think about that. Many of you guys already have your 120 hours. Next slide, please. This is really important. The curriculum, what are you using to teach? What are you using to teach? Now, I know your school system likely has adopted a child development book that they have been using for a long time. There are a variety out there working with young children. Again, there's another child development book that is commonly used. I usually see 2 of those books. And that's okay, honestly, if you have a multi-year program for year 1, you can utilize the books that are currently adopted, because year 1 is usually, they really do consider an elective. The students are trying to figure out, do I really want to do this? Let me just take this class and see. But if they stay with you for year 2 and year 3, even if they do come back for year 2, they are interested. They want to do this. So you know what? After the first year, you should consider making the books that are written by the council, you should make those books your textbooks. So shout out to DeKalb, Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning. I was able to secure a grant for $11,000 when I was working in Gwinnett, and we piloted a high school CDA program, and they paid for all the textbooks. They even paid the fee for the students to apply. They gave them a stipend and everything. It was an awesome program. Thank you, DeKalb. And so through that, the students, again, they were able to get their books, their portfolio materials. You need to talk to your CTE district level, system level staff to see when or if you can get those textbooks. For my program, it would have been 3 years before we were up for a renewal of textbooks in my program. So these books came right on time. So, ask and ye shall receive. So it's really important that you think about what you're using, because if you're using the council's materials, it makes it so much easier to implement your curriculum and to make sure your students are learning what they need to prepare for the application process. So I really want to put a pin in this, making sure that you have these books. So you have the essentials books there. Essentials in working with young children would be your textbook. What I love about the Essentials book, not only is it colorful and easy to follow, you remember those standards and functional areas that I shared? Well, that's how it's broken down. The book has 13 chapters. There are 13 CDA functional areas. Thank you, Council. So important if you're implementing the council's materials. So that was a book that I taught from for my second and third year students. My second year students primarily, because by third year, they were working with children from most of the program, all right? The Essentials workbook for the students is awesome because this gives teachers something to use for their different assignments, for reflections. It helps with the writing process because they do have to write competency standards. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. They also have to choose a setting, and there are 2 books to support that setting. The yellow book is infants and toddlers, or they can choose the preschooler setting, which is ages 3 to 5. So the yellow book is ages 0 to 2, or infants and toddlers, and then, or 0 to 35 months, if you will. And then 3 to 5 years is the green book. And so those are the 2 CDAs they get to choose from. And we'll talk more about the settings on the next slide. Yes. So with the work experience, there are 480 hours of work experience with young children. So we do know, those of you guys who are familiar with the CDA, there are 4 different CDAs they can earn. They can earn the infant toddler CDA, they can earn the preschooler CDA, they can earn the family child care, that's if you're working with children in your home, or they can earn the home-based CDA, which is those who are the home visitor CDA is those who are primarily working with families. So we have family child care advocates or family advocates, FSAs, family service workers who often earn the home visitor CDA. So let's look at the settings on the next slide, because you have 2, not 4. You choose between 2 for the high school CDA. All right, next slide. Yep. So the infant toddler setting, again, birth to 36 months. So if they want to work with young children, mostly 0 to 2, then that's the area where they need to do all of their observations working with young children. They need to work with children from birth to 36 months. All right. Their portfolio, everything that they do should be centered around the infant and toddler. Now, the education, they're going to learn about birth through 5. So everyone will have the same education, the 120 hours. However, their materials they're preparing for their application will focus on that particular setting. So infant and toddler, birth to 36 months, or they can choose the preschool CDA ages 3 through 5. So that's what high schoolers have, those 2 options to determine which one they want. And that's where you would place them for their work experience with young children. So when I was sending children and students across the street, which was usually 4th and 8th period, the last period of the day, on the day they came to us, they would go across the street in year 3, or in the morning, if they came during the first part of the day, they would go across the street and work with the young children at the Child Development Center, again, across the street. That was easy. We'll talk about other options. So when they would go across the street, they would go into the classroom based on their setting. Again, their hours need to be in the setting that they chose. And that's really, really important, okay? Moving on, next slide. Yes, they also have a resource collection. And what I love about the resource collection, especially for high schoolers, is because grades are required, right? Grades are required. That's the hardest part of teaching, is having to score people's work. So with the grades being required, if they already have a resource collection that they need to prepare for their portfolio, why not make these their required grades? Does that blow your mind? So when my students perform first aid and CPR, when they took the assessment piece and they performed CPR, guess what? That was their unit completion grade for that particular piece. Because they performed it, they got their first aid CPR card, but they also got earned a grade for that. When they prepared their weekly menu, and y'all, believe it or not, this was a tough one because everyone doesn't know the components for each meal. So they had to work in groups. It was a whole unit on nutrition, and they had to plan breakfast, lunch, and afternoon snack for a week for a child development center. And they had to do it on an actual form that programs often use. That's a grade. That's a grade. When they did their weekly lesson plan on a chosen theme or topic, that's a grade. So there's a resource collection that's required in their portfolio, which they can do as a binder, or they can do it online. I often use Google Drive, you guys. It's free and it's friendly. And they would use that for their portfolio, and I would show them how to create their folders, A through J, and how to drop everything in their Google folders and send me the link so I can view it. Again, or they can do the binder with the sheet protectors and and do it that way. There are options here. So again, today's an overview, but we have more support for you. Get excited about that. Next slide. So this new TNTA program, what is it? You heard me say a lot. I talked about education. I talked about the hours they have to have with children. And in a perfect world, you all would understand. You would download the handbook, you would read it and have tabs and have your earmarks. But guess what? Would you really be able to go and implement it the way it totally needs to be implemented? Maybe so. Even if you can't, we have support here. So the council has this awesome new program where you get support. You get to have a phone call with me and someone on the team. You also, you have a form that you get to complete to request the support that you need. Because as I already saw before we even really got started, the questions were coming in. We know you have them, and the council has invested in your interest to make sure that you get what you need. So next slide, let's dig in. What does this program include? So the council is offering webinars, like today is our lunch, but we have more coming for you. I'll share more about them shortly. So we're launching it today so that you will know that you have webinars coming your way to support you in implementing the CDA. You're not alone. We also have TA Tuesdays. So from 4 to 6 p.m., we figured that was great for most time zones because CDA is all over the world, you guys. The CDA is all over the world. So you get a 30-minute TA session where you can talk with me, find out what your concerns are, and get support on that. You can talk through those questions that you have and make sure that you have everyone in the room so we can make sure your questions are answered. Yay! Thank you, council. Here's another thing that's coming. The handbook, I can't remember how many pages it is, Sandy, but we did a lot in there. And the handbook has live links in it where you can actually click on the links. That's why it's downloadable, because again, the links are live. There's way too much information to put in one book. So the links give you access to those different web pages that you need. But we know that we're not in a perfect world where you have time to do the dog ears and highlight and tab everything and read through the whole book. So we're providing an implementation guidebook, which will be a much shorter version for you to get a snapshot of what you need to get your program either started or just really expand and improve your program. Yay, thank you, council. I hear you guys screaming that out there. Next slide. So the webinars. Today is webinar 1. We're doing 4 total webinars. And the next one, I believe Sandy was saying August, July or August. We'll have, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's actually going to be in the fall.
Okay, in the fall, yeah. So in the fall, we'll have our next one, and that'll give you time to get back to school and get comfortable. I went through the 120 hours and 480 hours really quickly today, just an overview, but you'll have more time and we will actually dive deeper into the requirements on in the industry-based curriculum. Again, a lot of curriculum that I have been seeing, just minor tweaks that need to be made to bring it up to industry standard. So the students are learning not just what to do at home with children, but also what to do in a child development center so that they can go to work after they earn their credential. So we're really excited about that particular one. And we know that's the one that you all have been asking for. So look forward to receiving information about that particular webinar. And all of you all will be on the council's mailing list. So if you're not already. The third webinar would be on preparing for CDA assessment, and we'll take a deep dive into the portfolio. Again, another topic we get a lot of questions about because many people are not really sure about the competency statements, what really goes in the portfolio, how to write a competency statement, what particular items they should really collect, and also how to organize it. So we'll spend time talking about the portfolio. And then finally, also preparing for assessment, the CDA exam and the verification visit, giving you more information on those, because many of you all may be working in the program, but unlike Dr. Moore, you may not have your CDA or haven't earned it before. So you need more information. So we'll be supporting you with CDA assessment, with the exam, the portfolio, and the verification visit. So look forward to those emails so you can get registered. I love this form. So there's a new TA form that you get to complete so that we can reach back out to you and schedule you for TA. And here it is, and you'll get the link in the chat. You'll also have the link in a follow-up email. So all you do is put your information here, whoever the contact person is, so that we can make sure that we reach back out to you and get what you need. Sometimes we have to ship things to you. So yes, we would love your mailing address and all of that as well. So you'll put your contact information on the form, and then we'll want to know a little bit about your district and where you are in the process of offering the ECE pathway. So are you currently implementing it? Do you not implement it yet? So answer those questions. We'll also want to know a little bit more about, again, where you are in the process. Have you already done it? Have you not done it at all? You know, where your district is. And then you can, we have an ethnicities questions there because we have a lot of, we had a lot of questions about that. And we also want to know about your program and how we can support you. In providing TA, I can tell you there are so many languages that I haven't even heard of who are earning their credential. So we want to support those. If you go back up just a little bit, I want to show you the different topics that we pulled already, because these are the ones that people ask about a lot. So you can choose which area your district may need support. And if there's another area, of course, you have a place to select other, and you can describe your need in the next space. Thank you. And any additional background about your program we'll want, just to make sure that we can, you know, if there are any concerns that you've had, just so we can get to know you and we can make sure we have the right people on when we call you back and schedule your TA meeting. All right, so get ready. You'll have the link so that you can schedule your TA. Thank you, Council. It is in the chat. All right, next slide. I thank you for this time. I know I was moving fast because I want to get it all in. So excited about it. But now we have time for some questions. So I am bringing up Michelle Brown, who is the Executive Vice President of the Programs Division at the Council for Professional Recognition. Thank you guys for listening. I look forward to collaborating with you guys. Michelle.
I think you're on mute, Michelle. You're on mute.
Yes, I apologize, CDA community, for being on mute. Thank you, Christopher, for that reminder. And Bisa, my goodness, you shared some wonderful, I'd like to call them, look, I have on my pearls today, y'all, pearls of wisdom. You added about 3 strands to my necklace, okay? And as for you, CDA community, this chat and question and answer section is popping. Now that's an urban term, and that means it's really, really busy. So we really appreciate how involved and how engaged and how excited you are about the CTE ECE workforce and moving forward, perhaps with the CTE program for the first time or fortifying the one you have in place. So with no further ado, we just have a little bit of time left. So I want to go ahead and get to these questions and answers. And I feel like I was a nutty professor when I was off camera because you guys had a lot of questions coming in the chat, and you still do, and in the question and answer section. So what's exciting about this is that our panel of experts, the folks you've already heard from, Dr. Bisa, Sandy, and Chris, are going to serve as our experts to help get these questions answered. So are you guys ready for me to throw out some of these questions at you all? So here's the first question. That's a very easy question, but it's an important question, y'all. Will this presentation and the recording be emailed out after the training? So the actual slides and a recording of the presentation. Sandy, can you take this question?
I can. Yes, this is going to be sent out tomorrow with a thank you to everyone. And they'll have a copy of the video and the presentation. And then also we will be having a copy of the webinar on our website later in the week as well.
That is great.
And it'll be sent out to you participants as well as to those who RSVP'd but couldn't attend.
Okay, that's great. Dr. Bisa, were you about to say something? Okay, let me say this as an aside, right? Because we know in our field that folks that are critically reflective and ask the right questions are successful. So as I heard you all asking these questions, I just have to say this quickly. Asking the right questions, which you all have done, and I've seen you all doing this in the chat. I think Maxine from Minnesota set it off for us, but asking the right questions can, unlike ideals, resources, and examples of ways to get started with building a CTE program or growing and advancing your own CTE program. So I want to say, as these questions go, you guys have been taking care of each other. I've already seen a community of practice being built, and I know the panelists have seen this as well. So thank you to Maxine. Thank you to the folks from New York, from Detroit, all of you all, Florida. If I don't name you, charge it to my head, not my heart. Let's get back to these questions, okay? All right, panel. There was a question. Do you need to be 18 years old to apply for the CDA? Dr. Bisa, what's up with that?
If they are a senior, so my understanding is that if they are a senior and they have completed the program and they are graduating, that they're fine if they complete the program. So
Gotcha.
that's in my, and Sandy is nodding, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Sandy.
But some of them are 17 and they're about to graduate and they're turning 18. So that's always an issue, yeah.
Okay, here's another question for you all. Our CTE program covers a 4-county area and will not support a high school CDA. Can we work with individual school systems to offer this program independently in high schools? So I'll open this up to the entire panel, whoever wants to answer.
Hey, Michelle, I want to piggyback on Dr. Bisa's last question, just to make sure that folks are clear that if your student is enrolled in high school, I think Dr. Bisa said a junior or senior, they can sit for the exam, right? So they don't have to be 18, they have to be enrolled in the high school program or a high school graduate. So if they're enrolled in that CTE program, they can sit for the CDA assessment.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and Dr. Moore, you may or may not want to weigh in on this question. I want to repeat it again. Our CTE program covers a 4-county area and will not support a high school CDA. Can we work with individual school systems to offer this program independently in high schools?
One of the major pieces I love about the high school handbook is the needs assessment. The needs assessment allows you to let your community know whether the program is even necessary in your area. And oftentimes it is. What I often hear people say, especially administrators, leaders say, oh, the ECE is a high demand, low wage field profession, so we don't offer it in our area. But there are children there, so who's preparing them for grade school, right? So sometimes it takes you guys rallying together, doing that needs assessment that's already prepared for you in the handbook, distributing it, and giving them evidence. Some people just need the evidence. So that's what I recommend, because again, if there are children there, and there are, they definitely need a program.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I was
Dr. Beasley, go ahead,
gonna,
Jen.
yeah, I was just gonna add to that. Yeah, the handbook especially, it's made for those who, need to go to talk to their school systems, and it has different forms, like Dr. Biza mentioned, and different ways in which you can utilize the handbook then to go and speak and talk to folks in your community, in the school systems, to administrators, and let them know you're interested in a program and provide steps on how to do it.
Yes, Sandy, I think that's a great point. The other thing too is that we have been actively working with states. Sandy's had an extensive history, and we've actually been kind of rekindling some relationships with states just to help you guys promote the materials as much as possible in this initiative. So it's going to, unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of convincing on your end with some LEAs and some states, just to help them understand the need and necessity for it. But just as Dr. Bisa described, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and we do have the information to support the need for this. So I think it's going to take some convincing. Other states are, it's not going to be a one size all approach to this. But I just want you guys to know that we are actually in the boat with you, rowing and treading the water in the same direction. So.
Thank you. Thank you to the entire panel. Now, this question is a little long, but I want to get to the gist of it. It's again about 18-year-olds. Folks are saying they're getting a bit of pushback about folks being concerned with 18-year-olds being lead teachers. They say their program offers a 2-year concurrent credit for having a CDA, but the 4-year requires instructors to have a master's plus 18 graduate credits in ECE in order to offer concurrent credit. This person is looking for a way to get these folks on board.
I love the question. More, go ahead. Yes.
Well, let me dive into the first part, Dr. Bisa, and I can let you answer the rest of it because it's a big question.
Mm-hmm.
The CDA is the best first step. So we've never made the case that a CDA holder should be a lead teacher. I think those are decisions that are made locally at local programs, licensing regulators in state systems often make those determinations about what are the requirements for lead teachers. So I just wanted to make that clear that we believe that the CDA is the foundational best first step for anyone entering our field. Now, I can speak for myself that when I earned the CDA, I was a teacher aide in a program. And because I had experience, I quickly moved up the ladder. But every program is different, and they're governed by different state regulations that determine what qualifications are required for a lead teacher in a program. And we do believe that the CDA is the best first step and puts that person on the pathway to becoming a lead teacher. But I just wanted to let you know that the council's position is that it's the best first step, and it leads to the next step in their career pathway. And the rest is determined, I think, by state and local program design and regulations.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Here's another question related directly to CTE ECE content. What if a student wants more than one CDA, high school student? Do they have to do more than 480 clock hours?
Oh, that's a great question. So we're working on that. I don't know who asked that question, but I probably want to have a conversation with you after this is over, because we are really thinking about this dual degree, dual credential opportunity, right? I see Dr. Bisa shaking her head, because I do know that sometimes students may have, because they're not working in the field, they may have a little whiplash. Which way do I go? Do I want to work with infants, or do I want preschoolers? And they're very different. Or do I want to make sure that I'm a generalist and I can work with different age groups or multiple age groups even? So we have been thinking about this question and trying to respond to the demand that's happening now in different sectors in our field, where we have this enormous teacher shortage across the country, and programs want to be flexible in how they staff their programs with qualified individuals. So there's more to come from the council on this notion of, do I have to earn the credential twice or seek 2 different settings? And we're working on that.
So boss, this is crazy because I have this list of questions that I filled while you all were talking earlier, and I'm saying like at least 20 more have came into the chat, and you know this ends at 4, and we have like a couple minutes left. So I'm going to do a couple points of clarification, and then we've got to figure out a way to get these folks' questions answered. And it looks like Lisa is going to be busy with some TA Tuesdays, right? And of course, we'll try to answer your questions as best as can. Somebody asked quickly in the chat, what is TA? And I think you figured it out. It's training and technical assistance. And you heard Dr. Bisa say it's free, okay? Somebody asked, was the high school handbook printable? Yes, it's on our CDA pathways page on the council's website. Did I get that right, Sandy? All right, and then if my folks, my technical folks who have been absolutely the bomb diggity, which means awesomeness in its purest form, can you pull up the slide about our conference that says the ELC Educators Conference? Somebody asked, a couple of people asked, when is the conference? Let me tell you something. Obviously, I'm biased because I work for the council, but this is one of the best conferences in the field. It's intimate, and it's in Florida this year. The EELC, the Early Educator Learners Conference, October 5th through 8th in Orlando, Florida. We're focused on career pathways, leading career pathways that lead to equity, right? How profound is that topic, knowing where we are in the field right now? And would you go to the next slide for me? Y'all are awesome, thank you. This is our first ever ECE Practitioner Day. There's a day where there's a spotlight on your learning and your wellness. And we already know that in order for us to be well to the children and family and students we serve, whether big or little, we need to be well to ourselves. And this is about supporting the whole educator, right? Because when we put our oxygen masks on first, you know what happens after that. And speaking of oxygen masks, and to reiterate what Chris touched on, Dr. Moore, you know what I'm about to do. I'm gonna hold up my heart. We love y'all. And we appreciate everything that you do for children and families. And we want you just to hang on tight. We know that times are tough, but if we stick together, we can get through this together, okay? There's more question coming into chat. It's 4:01. Before I say thank you, if y'all can just stay with us and our tech people for just another minute, I just want to reiterate something that you heard from Bisa, that you heard from Sandy and Chris, and what's important for you all to know. I want you to reflect. I know you guys are taking notes the way you putting questions in this chat, but think about all this rich information you heard, right? And how you might implement it tomorrow, how you might implement some of it at the end of the school year if you're an existing program. But if you're not and you're building, think about how you might build what you've heard today into your implementation plan when you roll out your program at the beginning of the school year or whenever you plan to roll it out. And what you need to know for sure is what you heard Dr. Bisa and Dr. Moore say earlier about the path forward for not just rebuilding our field's workforce, but Dr. Moore, can I say baby, for building back America's economy is, right? It's us, it's the early childhood sector. But I think that foundation, right? That big piece that people are underestimating is our young folks, right? Our CTE, ECE programs are the path forward. So we hate to cut this short. Now we realize for our next webinar, we might need to plan for 90 minutes instead of 60 minutes. On behalf of the panel, on behalf of Dr. Moore and the council, I want to tell you, thank you for joining us. We'll make sure you get the information you need. Go to our website so you can look for not only the handbook, but if you didn't get to see the first webinar, the inaugural webinar related to CTE, the handbook that unpacks all that, you can find that there as well. So you can just get like this whole professional development experience. Rewatch this one, go watch the first one. And then of course you saw Sandy and Bisa's contact information. You'll get more information about TA Tuesdays. And we're so excited to work with you. And we look forward to building the workforce together. See you all. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job, team. That was exciting.
Yes,
I was on the edge of
sir.
my seat. Great job, Dr. Bisa and
Yes,
Michelle. and
Dr.
Chris
Beese,
and
y'all
Sandy.
had all these questions coming in. You should have seen me, boss. You see, I was trying to separate them like the Nutty Professor. I was like,